Hello there, it's midnight. Welcome to Nightline. You're watching with me, Anita Bu. The headlines. PKR must act boldly and investigate if sex video an inside job, says Azmin. And Selangor F&B outlets prohibited from providing straws from July 1st. We begin with this story. Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad is probably the only world leader given the honour to speak at both the Oxford Union and Cambridge Union forums in London later on Monday. Despite pressures and protests from pro-Jew groups, the Prime Minister had said that he will continue to raise issues that may be frowned upon by others. And Tun Dr. Mahathir would take the opportunity during his talk, entitled Democracy in Malaysia and Southeast Asia, to speak his mind on these issues.
Mereka jemput saya untuk bagi ucapan tajuk tak ditentukan. Saya boleh bercakap berkenaan dengan apa saja. Saya biasanya memilih subjek-subjek yang pada saya perlu disuarakan. Walaupun subjek itu tidak disenangi oleh mereka yang hadir.
So Dr. Mahathir arrived in London on Friday for a 3-day visit to the UK, accompanied by his wife, Tun Dr. Siti Hasmah Muhammad Ali, Foreign Minister Datuk Saifuddin Abdullah, and Youth and Sports Minister Syed Sadiq Said Abdul Rahman. The Cambridge Union's decision to invite Tun Dr. Mahathir is said to have courted controversies, as some quarters were against the ideas and views brought forward by the Prime Minister. It is learnt that several groups are planning to stage a protest ahead of the Cambridge Union Forum, including LGBT activists. Moving on to the sex video scandal allegedly involving a cabinet minister. Datuk Seri Muhammad Azmin Ali said the PKR leadership must take a bold decision to investigate claims that factions within the party were responsible for the leaked sex video implicating him. He stressed on the need for such action if the party planned on staying relevant.
I leave it to you to decide and to interpret. But certainly this is something that is alarming, that the leadership must take a bold decision to investigate. I was told that even the circulation is no longer based on the Facebook or Instagram because they want to avoid the identification of the IP address. And they circulated through WhatsApp group. That was the report given to me. And this WhatsApp group contained all the contact numbers of the ketua-ketua cabang and also the lower rank of the office bearers at the cabang level. I don't have access to those information.
Datuk Seri Azmin told this to reporters at a Hari Raya open house in Gombak on Sunday. Asked if this proved there were hidden hands in the party who were scheming to destroy his political career, Datuk Seri Azmin refused to comment, saying it was up to the people to interpret the situation. In Sarawak, PKR President Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said the party will not take any action against its Santubong Youth Chief, Muhammad Haziq Abdullah Abdul Aziz, until police complete their investigations. He said he was aware that there were calls for the party to initiate an investigation on Haziq and those who had allegedly leaked the data of party leaders and members.
Kita tolak budaya jijik. Kita lahir simpati kepada saudara Azmin. Ya. Tapi saya tidak mau hukum kerana PDRM sedang menjalankan siasatan.
Datuk Seri Anwar was met at the Sarawak PKR Samara Aidilfitri and Gawai Dayak celebration in Kuching on Sunday. Haziq has been suspended from his official duties by Deputy Primary Industries Minister Datuk Seri Syamsul Iskandar Muhammad Akin. He was nabbed by the police as he was about to board a flight to Manila, the Philippines, at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport on Friday and later released on police bail. In the meantime, PKR has denied that it made available the mobile numbers of its leaders at the branch level, enabling the sex video clips to be transmitted to their devices. Its Secretary-General, Datuk Sri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail, said it was not difficult to acquire contact details and addresses of certain individuals and denied that the matter was orchestrated at the party's central level.
Status tentang itu kita sebab keputusan Biro Politik yang lepas adalah sementara kita menolak gata politik jijik dan kita meminta supaya Datuk Seri Azmin tabah dan sabar menghadapi ujian ini, kita juga sebut oleh kerana masing-masing pihak telah membuat laporan polis. Jadi lebih baik untuk kita serahkan kepada pihak berkuasa untuk meneruskan siasatan supaya biar ada kejelasan, ya, clarity dalam soal itu. Itu keutamaan parti sekarang.
Datuk Sri Saifuddin was met at a PKR Hari Raya event in Kota Kinabalu, Sabah on Sunday. Also present was PKR President Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim. Datuk Sri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail said collection and maintenance of mobile numbers of PKR leaders were necessary for party operations, adding that during the last party elections, these details were a prerequisite for all members to furnish. The remaining 8 bodies of Orang Asli from the Batik tribe in Kampung Kuala Koh in Gua Musang, Kelantan were brought out on Sunday. Gua Musang Police Chief Superintendent Muhammad Taufik Maidin said the bodies would undergo post-mortem at the Gua Musang Hospital.
Jadi semua mayat yang telah dijumpai, seperti mana yang saya bagi tahu, semua berada di atas para. Pondok kecil yang mempunyai para dan letak ke atas para. Tidak dikebumikan secara biasa di dalam tanah. Okey, ada mayat yang dijumpai masih berbungkus elok dan ada yang tinggal rangka. Dan ada yang jatuh di tanah.
The final 8 bodies were believed to be that of Muhammad Saleh Kaizin and Ame Lee, both 1 year old, and Puspa Lee, 5. Farah and Haika Rahim, aged 20 and 22 respectively, Leha Hamdan, 26, Jais Kaladi, 55, and Jelit Jong, age unknown. Meanwhile, the police said Kampung Kuala Koh status as a red zone or restricted area would remain until further notice. A crisis has hit the Batik people in Kampung Kuala Koh, whereby within a space of a month, 14 people from the village have died of mysterious circumstances. The cause or causes of the deaths have yet to be ascertained, but the victims were reported to be suffering from breathing difficulties. A pneumonia outbreak is suspected. Meanwhile, a large number of the over 100 Orang Asli from the Batik community, whom prior to this moved into the jungle after a disease ravaged their village over a month ago, have started to return home. They had started to return to their homes, which were built under the Housing Assistance Programme by the Orang Asli Development Department since 2 days ago, after they were convinced that the disease would not proliferate. An Orang Asli resident, Gulim Tabu, 72, said he believed that the disease was no longer spreading and the community was now able to obtain clean water, which was available at all times. Prior to this, he said he and the other residents were forced to leave the village and stayed in tents in the jungle and riverbanks because the village had run out of clean water for their daily needs. All food and beverage outlets, including restaurants in Selangor, are prohibited from providing plastic straws at the counter to be freely picked up by customers from July 1st. State Environment, Green Technology, Science and Consumer Affairs Committee Chairman He Loy Sian, in a statement, said the implementation of the policy on reducing the use of the plastic straws was approved by the State Executive Council on Wednesday. However, he said plastic straws would only be given at the request of the customer for each ordered drink. According to he, the main objective of this policy is to educate and increase the level of awareness on the long-term impact of the use of plastic on health and the environment. He added that the state government, through the PBT, will monitor the implementation of the policy, and all food and beverage outlet operators are urged to provide cooperation and assistance in order to achieve the objective of reducing the use of plastic in the state. He said the public are also encouraged to bring their own reusable food and drink containers and straws. The Transport Ministry has given its assurance that owners of private land acquired for the development of the East Coast Rail Project, or ECRL, will be duly compensated. Its Minister Anthony Loksu Fok said, however, it would be decided after the alignment of the mega project is finalised this year, before the expected land acquisition process takes place next year. Lok, who is also the Seremban Member of Parliament, said this in his speech at an Aidilfitri celebration in Jelebu Negeri Sembilan on Sunday. He said the government will obtain feedback from stakeholders and hold public information sessions for the matter as soon as the ECRL alignment is finalised. He is also confident that the project will attract investors to develop the industrial area in Jelebu, as well as provide more employment opportunities to the local community. On April 12th, the Prime Minister's office, in a statement, announced that the ECRL project will resume at a lower cost. According to the statement, the construction cost for phases 1 and 2 of the ECRL had been reduced to 44 billion ringgit, a reduction of 21.5 billion ringgit from the original cost of 65.5 billion ringgit. The construction of the ECRL will link Kota Baru in Kelantan through Mentakap, Jelebu, Kuala Kelawang, Bangi, Kajang, Putrajaya to Port Klang. Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng says he will meet Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs KPDN HEP Minister Datuk Seri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail next week to discuss the increase in cement prices. Saying that he had received complaints from several developers on the issue, Lim also said they were worried that the drastic increase in cement prices would have adverse effects on the construction industry.
Saya akan berbincang dengan Datuk Seri Saifuddin dan kita sama-sama akan lihat tentang dalam perkara ini. So sekarang kita nak tahu yang pertama mengapa kenaikan ini diperlukan. Puncanya, sebabnya. Apabila kita lihat track record dan juga sejarah tidak wujud dan tidak ada kenaikan sedemikian.
Lim was commenting on complaints by the developers about the cement price increase of between 40 and 50% as notified by letters from suppliers, which took effect from Saturday and some on July 1st. The Finance Minister stressed that there was no concrete reason to hike up the price of cement as the ringgit had begun to strengthen, while the materials used to produce cement were sourced locally and not imported from abroad. Earlier, the minister held a meeting with several representatives from the construction industry, including the Penang Master Builders and Building Materials Dealers Association advisor, Datuk Lim Kai Seng, and Real Estate and Housing Developers Association Malaysia, REHDA Chairman, Datuk Toh Chin Leong. The government has not received any request from the Indian government for the extradition of Islamic preacher Dr. Zakir Naik. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Wan Azizah Wan Ismail said, therefore, there was no need for the Malaysian government to do so.
Tapi setakat sekarang ini, pihak kerajaan Malaysia tidak menerima apa-apa permohonan daripada negeri India untuk ekstradisi Dr. Zakir Naik. Tapi Perdana Menteri telah menjawab dan itu yang menjadi jawapan kita.
Datuk Seri Dr. Wan Azizah told reporters after attending the Pandan Parliament Aidilfitri Open House on Sunday. Prior to this, Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad was reported as saying that Malaysia would not bow to insistence from any quarters for Dr. Zakir to be sent home to India. Tun Dr. Mahathir stressed that Malaysia had the right whether to send back or otherwise the renowned preacher. Four die in three-vehicle crash in Pahang. The details after the breather. Stay tuned. Welcome back, still on Nightline. Two high-profile figures in the One Malaysia Development Berhad 1MDB scandal were jailed for financial crimes in Abu Dhabi, UAE, the Wall Street Journal reported, citing people familiar with the matter. The two men are Khadim Al-Qubaisi, who once headed Abu Dhabi's International Petroleum Investment Company, IPIC, and Muhammad Badawi Al-Husseini, a US citizen who ran a subsidiary of IPIC. The WSJ reported Khadim was sentenced to prison for 15 years, while Muhammad Badawi was jailed for 10 years. The two men were ordered to pay about $336 million, half to IPIC that was described as a victim company, and half as a penalty, according to the Abu Dhabi Criminal Court. However, it quoted people familiar with the case as saying the convictions were not related to the 1MDB scandal. In Pahang, 4 people, including a little girl, were killed and another injured in a collision between a car and 2 lorries in Jalan Kuari Bukit Mendi, Felda Bukit Mendi, in Bura, near Kuantan on Sunday. According to State Fire and Rescue Department Deputy Director Muhammad Sani Harul said the deceased, comprising a man, 2 women and a girl, were passengers of a Perodua Aviva. The 1:35 p.m. accident saw the car drift and crash into the underside of one lorry, while the other heavy vehicle ploughed into the side of a knoll along the road shoulder. Occupants of the Perodua Aviva are believed to have been crushed to death. An officer and a team of 5 firemen from the Triang Fire and Rescue Station were rushed to the scene and extricated the bodies of all the victims who were trapped in the car. It is understood that the driver of one of the lorries sustained injuries and was taken to the Bukit Mendi Health Clinic, while the driver of the other lorry was unhurt. The bodies of all the victims who have yet to be identified were handed over to the police for further action. Over in Johor, a Singaporean man was decapitated when his BMW motorcycle was involved in a freak accident with a van at kilometre 6.6 of Jalan Gelang Patah near Iskandar Puteri in Johor Bahru on Sunday. According to Iskandar Puteri Police Chief, ACP Zulkhairi Mokhtar, the 43-year-old motorcyclist was heading to Ulu Cho from Gelang Patah when he crashed into the Toyota Hiace van driven by a local man at 9:33 a.m. Initial investigations found that the accident occurred when the van turned right and the victim, who was coming fast from the opposite direction, crashed right into it. Zulkhairi said the high-speed impact of the collision resulted in the victim being decapitated and thrown onto the middle of the road. The 28-year-old van driver, however, was not injured. The victim's remains were taken to Sultanah Aminah Hospital for post-mortem, and the case is being investigated under the Road Transport Act. In Kuala Lumpur, police checked more than 750 motorcycles and issued 338 summonses for various offences in an operation called Op Motosikal at several main roads in the city Saturday night. According to Kuala Lumpur Traffic Enforcement and Investigation Staff Officer DSP Muhammad Safi Ishak, the operation carried out at Jalan Pahang, Jalan Raja Laut and Jalan Bangsa was specifically aimed at reducing road accident rates involving motorcyclists and pillion riders in the city. During the operation, police also arrested a 23-year-old man on suspicion of riding a stolen motorcycle and seized 2 modified motorcycles with fake registration number plates. The operation, which began at 10:30 p.m, involved 6 officers and 69 traffic policemen from the Kuala Lumpur police contingent. In Selangor, a family of 3, including a 13-year-old teenage girl, was remanded for 5 days to facilitate police investigation into a child abuse case. Petaling Jaya Magistrates Court issued the remand order against all 3 suspects on Sunday following their arrests at a house in Puchong, Selangor on Saturday. The trio were accused of abusing 2 children aged 7 and 8 respectively, who have been living with them for the past 7 years after being abandoned by their divorced parents. Police said there were signs of abuse almost at every part of the bodies of the victims, who are also believed to have been suffering from malnutrition. The case is being investigated under the Child Act 2001. Still in Selangor, a 7-feet-long crocodile was sighted at Sungai Renggam near Section 17 in Shah Alam recently, causing worries among the residents. It's understood that this was not the first time the wild reptile was seen cruising in the river, which is also believed to be inhabited by several other crocodiles. According to the residents, they're worried for the safety of their families, given the short distance of some 300 meters between the river and their neighborhood. Due to this, the local community is calling upon the authorities, especially the Shah Alam City Hall, to address the situation by transferring the animals to a more appropriate location.
Catch the auto segment every Friday on Nightline! Woo! Whoa!
Next, massive power outage hits Argentina and Uruguay. Don't go away. Welcome back. Onto the foreign front. A massive power grid failure has left both Argentina and Uruguay without electricity, affecting about 48 million people across the two countries in the south of South America. It's reported that the power cut originated from Argentina, has also affected parts of Brazil and Paraguay. According to Uruguayan power company UTE, the nation's system went down at 7:06 a.m. local time due to a fault in the Argentine network. It is understood that the two countries have a common power grid centered on the binational Salto Grande Dam, 450 kilometers north of Buenos Aires. The outage, thought to be the first of its kind, has caused trains to be halted and failures with traffic signaling. Meanwhile, according to a major energy provider to the two nations, Edisur, the electricity is gradually being restored, starting with an initial 34,000 customers. Initial investigations indicated the blackout could have been caused by an imbalance between supply and demand of energy. Over in Hong Kong, tens of thousands poured into the streets on Sunday, demanding the city's leader, Carrie Lam, to step down, a day after she suspended an extradition bill in a dramatic retreat, but balked at withdrawing the controversial proposal. Lam emphasized she had suspended rather than withdrawn the bill, arguing the amendment was well-intended but had been poorly communicated to the people of Hong Kong. About 100,000 people, many dressed in black, took part in Sunday's 3-kilometre march to the government headquarters, which began in Victoria Park and went through Causeway Bay and Wan Chai as police closed off roads. The protest has been peaceful so far, in contrast to last Sunday's huge protest, which ended in violence. An Israeli court on Sunday convicted the wife of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Sarah Netanyahu, of fraudulently using state funds for meals under a plea bargain which saw her admit to lesser charges. In a deal approved by Judge Avital Chen at Jerusalem Magistrates Court, Sarah Netanyahu will have to repay the state $12,490 and a fine of $2,777. Initially, she was charged in June 2018 with fraud and breach of trust for buying catered meals worth more than $100,000, despite the presence of a cook at the Prime Minister's official residence. The amended indictment, approved Sunday, however, dropped the graft charges. While the ruling have cut short a high-profile trial, the Netanyahu family's legal woes are far from over, as her husband faces possible indictment for bribery, fraud, and breach of trust in the coming months. Next, Malaysian Tigresses finished third in FIH Series finals. Do stay tuned. We're back with sports news now. Hockey, the FIH Women's Series finals. The national women's hockey team ended their campaign on a high after beating the Czech Republic 3-0 in the third-fourth playoff on Sunday night. Malaysia scored through field goals from Hanis Nadia on the 11th minute, followed by Fazila Sylvester Silin in the 34th minute for a 2-0 lead. Nora Mira Zulkifli ensured the win with another field goal in the 60th minute, wrapping up a 3-0 victory over the Czech team. 22nd ranked Malaysia had on Saturday been knocked out of the semi-finals, suffering a 3-0 loss to South Korea. Looks like that's it for Nightline. In Bolivia, thousands of dancers take part in the opening parade of the Festival of the Great Power in La Paz, which reflects a mixture of Catholic and indigenous beliefs and folklore. Let's have a look at these exciting visuals of the ceremony as we wrap up tonight's bulletin. With that, I'm Anita Wu. Thank you for tuning in. Good night.